Did Scott Drew just do the impossible? Because it really feels like Scott Drew just did the impossible.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Game Time. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. I appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day. Of course, be sure to like and subscribe to help me keep my job because I like doing it. What we're going to be talking about today, Scott Drew has finalized the roster. It took some twists and turns, some weird kind of wild card polls, but he has done it. Let's analyze it now. Plus, Ashton Hawkins and Baylor certainly going to be suing the NCAA, but here's why they are going to win. And also, I went on Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin to talk about this Ashton Hawkins scenario, and the main question being, if he doesn't win by some divine intervention and not in a good way, can Baylor football survive without him? All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Start with basketball. This was beyond an uphill battle for an offseason for Scott Drew. We've talked about that ad nauseum. One player coming back, and it was a guy who was practicing with them for half the year last year. Nobody that actually played in a game for the Baylor Bears in 2024, 2025 will be playing in a basketball game for the Baylor Bears in 2025, 2026. We all knew that. And I was very skeptical that Scott Drew was going to be able to put together a real roster this year, especially before Memorial Day. But guess what? Scott, coaching staff, player ops staff, all the people associated with Baylor basketball, take a vacation, please, because you've been working around the clock since getting eliminated in the second round. And finally, it looks like they can do that. They can take a vacation because the Bears did make one more move on Thursday, and that was to get the Italian forward, Maikcol, is how I'm going to say it, Maikcol Perez. That's Maikcol. So it's probably with some flair that I can't do. But Maikcol Perez has committed to Baylor, 6'8" forward, 17. He's not even going to turn 18 until he's already played a couple of games for the Baylor Bears. So he's in this class of 2025. And talk about how you put together this roster, but really how Scott has put together a 2025 class here. All right, he only had Tunde Yesufu signed from this class for the whole of the season. And now after the season ends, he gets Ramon Sayoye, Andre Iguodala II, and now Maikcol Perez. And so now you've got four guys, all with a bunch of upside, and you've got a 2025 class ranking that, according to 247, is in the top 30. And that hasn't even taken into account Maikcol Perez yet. So that could be inside the top 20 for your 2025 recruiting class, which only had one player signed by the time you stopped playing basketball this year. I don't think any of us are terribly stunned that Scott Drew has got this done, but we can be surprised, man. Like, the guy, he could do no wrong, but we could be surprised. This is miraculous, man. He's got a top 20 transfer class, a top 30, probably also top 25, top 20 recruiting class going into next season in a year where he didn't bring any real player back. Not to say that Cam Carr's not a real player, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean. And now he's got 13 spots. He's got it filled out. Here it is. Your 2025-2026 Baylor Bears. Bang. What other coach can put together a top 25 recruiting class when he only has one player signed at the end of his season? Like, the players are usually gone by then. They're already signed. They're committed. And they're going somewhere else. Scott Drew, he can make it happen. And this was the biggest roster reconstruction he's ever had to have at Baylor. And that includes the first summer, the scandal-ridden summer where they had to hold open tryouts. And the new Midway High coach, Matt Saman, was one of only like 3 guys returning. They had less guys returning this year. And Scott Drew has gotten it done. And now let's look at the roster. Because the thing I like the most about it, we were kind of skeptical going into last year. There was some trepidation there. And I was saying, you don't have a lot of depth at center, but I think Baylor can play some small ball here. And they did play small ball most of the year. Obviously, the last month and a half was out of necessity, when Josh Ojamuna got hurt. But Scott Drew, with this roster, is telling you, we will not be doing that again. We will not be playing small ball again. In fact, it is kind of a throwback to those teams he had in the late aughts, early to late 2010s that were really big. And for this one, you've got 3 of your 13 guys under 6'5". That's it. Even your guards are 6'5", 6'6". Cam Carr's like 6'6". He's got this ridiculous wingspan. But J.J. White, Obi Agbim, and Isaac Williams, that's it. Those are your only guys under 6'5". So you've got a bunch of these swing guys like, Dan Skillings, Michael Ratai, Maikcol Perez probably fits into that at 6'8". Andre Iguodala II at 6'7". Tonde obviously at 6'6". Can play a couple of different positions, but that is pretty clear. It's a clear message from Scott Drew. We're not doing the small ball thing again. We're not going to last a whole season doing that. We are going to get bigger and we're going to get stronger to compete in this league, and that's what they've done. That said, Obi Agbim and J.J. White are going to be playing a lot. Obi Agbim is going to be a starter. J.J., I don't know. We'll see. But they're going to be playing a lot. And so, 2 of your 3 small guys are going to be playing a ton of minutes. But I love that approach by Scott Drew, and I'm wondering how it's going to translate to this offense. We talked with Jackson Posey a little bit about it a few weeks ago and how this offense will look now that it's the second year removed from John Jacobs. And I don't know how much this guy had to do with the offense, but now Bill Armstrong is gone. It's going to be interesting to see. They've got a lot of big guys, a lot of long guys, but Scott Drew has done it. He has a college basketball roster that can win games. Are they going to be, Big 12 championship? I doubt it, right? But they're going to win games. You got 3-star prospects. You got a 5-star prospect. You got, a couple of 4-star transfer guys. Like Dan Skillings, 4-star transfer guy. Jocelyn Bodo, 4-star transfer guy. J.J. White, Obi Agbim, Michael Ratai, same thing. So these were some of the most sought-after players in the transfer portal. And now Baylor's got him. One last thing on Maikcol Perez, by the way, because he's what, kind of inspired this. He's been playing in Italy, and he was averaging 9 points a game last year in international play as a barely 17-year-old. He played in the U17 Basketball World Cup last year. This is from Ashley Hodge, by the way, who just he could get anything basketball around the world. 15 points a game, 9 rebounds a game, and 4 assists per game in that tournament. He made the all-tournament team the last 2 seasons, playing for Team Italy out there in the U17s and then U16s championship. So the kid can play. He's already played amongst some grown men as well in those professional leagues. But how about it? Scott Drew has done it. And if you love Scott Drew, like this video, subscribe to the channel as well. We'll shift over to football. Ashton Hawkins is going to win whatever lawsuit comes the NCAA's way, and it's because of a defensive back at Rutgers. We'll tell you more about it coming up next on Locked On Baylor. And if you are listening to this or watching this early Friday afternoon, I will be at the Cubs game thanks to Game Time. They come through for me all the time. All right, even for the biggest events, when you think there's no way I can get a ticket, NBA playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs, whatever it might be, Game Time's got you. Prices on the app actually drop as you get closer to game time. And with those killer last-minute deals, the panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. And it's the only place I go to for tickets. And it's been that way for years. Okay. In fact, sometimes I just look at them. I was on the app this morning. I was looking at the Celtics Knicks tickets, one of the hottest tickets in New York basketball history. And yet those zone deals are still going on, offering up to 60% off in some great sections. I love that I can see the exact view from my seats before I buy. That's huge for Wrigley and for Fenway, my 2 favorite ballparks. No surprises there. I know when I'm going to sit behind a beam, okay? And with the Game Time guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they're going to credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, and that, of course, is guaranteed. I love that Baylor is potentially about to take the NCAA to court. They haven't said that directly yet, but they said, look, you took away Ashton Hawkins' eligibility. We expect him to be on the team this year. So that to me sounds like they're going to take their butts to court. And let me tell you, if that happens, that's bad news for the NCAA because that's going to be another loss for them in court, which have been piling up over the last few years. Baylor will win this case. And the comparison that we saw so much, we've seen so much throughout the last few days since this Ashton Hawkins news dropped was Diego Pavia, right, from Vanderbilt. He's the guy who was kind of the poster child. He brought up the grievance earlier in this winter, and he was the first one to get that waiver, got the rule change for these JUCO guys. And in terms of their situations right now, nothing has changed with Ashton Hawkins or Diego Pavia, except for the fact that Diego Pavia is eligible and Ashton Hawkins is not. Now, looking deeper into this, because I've been fascinated by this the past few days, and I saw this, someone pointed it out to me on Twitter before I started doing the research on it. The thing that might hold it up is the fact that Pavia played 3 years of Division I football. Ashton Hawkins has played 4. Okay, I get that. Fundamentally, I understand that. First off, the NCAA gave the waiver to both. So now to pull one out is Bush League. It's ridiculous. But let's play off that, right? Pavia, he did 2 years of JUCO. One of them was the COVID year in 2020. So that gets basically thrown out the window. 2 years at New Mexico State and now a year at Vandy. And he was cleared for 25. He won. Ashton Hawkins, on the other hand, also did 2020 at the JUCO level, COVID year, then played 3 years at Texas State and 1 year at Baylor. So it's not exactly apples to apples because Hawkins played 4 years. Diego Pavia has played 3. That said, there is someone who just won a court case that exactly mirrors this Ashton Hawkins situation. Let me introduce you to Rutgers safety Jet Elad, as I'm hoping how you say that. Jet Elad. A few weeks ago, just this very offseason, he was in the Rutgers spring game because he won the preliminary injunction that will for now grant him eligibility for the 2025 season. So here's where we go with Jet Elad. All right, he transferred from Rutgers to UNLV this past year, from UNLV, I should say, to Rutgers. Filed a lawsuit against the NCAA because they were going to block his eligibility for that 4 years in a 5-year span ruling. But Jet Elad comes in also talking about a JUCO year. So he played a couple of years at Ohio, and then he had a JUCO year in there where he played at Garden City Community College. And they said with this new rule, that 2022 year that he played there should not count towards his eligibility. He's about to play year number 7 of college football. And Ashton Hawkins is about to play year number 6 of college football. But both of them have played 4 years of Division I. And here's Jet Elad, who just won the case. He had the rug pulled out from under him more recently, I guess, or closer to the time that he could have been working out for the NFL than Ashton Hawkins did. But he just won the case. Redshirted in 2019. 2020 was a COVID year. It didn't count. It's the same thing as Ashton Hawkins. So Baylor fans, this is what you can hang your hat on. Jet Elad just won the case. And I know that looking through here, this is where it's a little odd, a little awkward for folks like me, a Baylor fan, but also a lot of other Baylor fans who have been, not loving the way that college football has been going over the last few years. Because as I've said on the show a few times now, I don't love the JUCO waiver rule. I don't. These guys, they know what they're going to get to by playing in junior college. They know that that is sacrificing something. A lot of these guys could still play Division I at a lower level or maybe an FCS, but they decide to go to junior college because it's an opportunity to get some real great tape out there and be able to play at a Power 4 program or something very close to it, right? I think, Diego Pavia and Ashton Hawkins, for example, they don't hop into Power 4 programs right away after JUCO, but they know the risk they're taking and why they're gambling on themselves there. So let's put that aside. I don't love the rule, but you've already cleared him. You said, okay, that rule's done. You're eligible. And then a few months later, when nothing changes, you say they're ineligible. The other thing is, what I said about Jet Elad. It's going to be his 7th season of college football. It's going to be Ashton Hawkins' 6th season of college football. I'm a proponent of give a guy 7 years and you can play up to 5. I don't love getting crazy. I don't love guys playing, 7 years. And what I mean by giving 7 years, that can put in a redshirt year, that can put in an injury grievance, that can put in a Mormon mission for our friends over at BYU. All of those things fit into that. But non-redshirt years playing, you can only play 5. And these guys are both breaking that. But so while I don't love that in a vacuum, we're not in a vacuum here. The point is, the NCAA told both of these guys earlier this year, you're fine. You can play. We get it. We've got your grievance. We're changing the rules. You can play. And now, without a snap of a football in between now and then, they said, no, you can't. And Jet Elad right away was like, we'll take you to court on that. Rutgers, we'll take you to court on that. And they won. Ashton Hawkins, Baylor's basically said the same thing without saying it. We expect Ashton Hawkins to play for the team this year. You know why? You know why they expect that? Because on April 25th, whatever that was, 3 weeks from when this episode is dropping right now, 3 weeks ago, it already happened. There's already been precedent to it. So does it fit the Diego Pavia thing? Not exactly. It should still fall under the same purview. They're under the same waiver, but it exactly follows this Jet Elad case, and Jet Elad's already won it. So Ashton Hawkins is going to win this case. Mark my words. Ashton Hawkins will be playing for the Baylor Bears in 2025. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you think the NCAA stinks and that Ashton Hawkins should be playing for the Baylor Bears this year. That said, if he doesn't, will Baylor be able to survive? Will Baylor still be one of the favorites to win the Big 12 title? I sat down with Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football to ask that same question and answer it as well. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from our sponsors over at WayFair. We're sponsoring today's episode. Look, guys, summer's here, especially in Texas. You want to spend more time outside. The days are longer. People are spending more out there, which means it's time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working on a big backyard or a small balcony, WayFair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. WayFair's massive selection of outdoor essentials make it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to those sleek dining tables and the outdoor decor, they've got it all, and at prices that fit your budget. I don't know what that is. I love the mix of styles they offer. WayFair makes it super easy to find pieces that match your vibe without spending a fortune. So shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online. This summer, get outside with WayFair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WayFair.com. WayFair, every style, every home.
The NCAA is like red pen on a test. If you are seeing it, hearing from it, or noticing it in your life, something bad is probably happening. That is the situation down at Baylor. Cam Stewart of Locked On Baylor is here to discuss the Ashton Hawkins situation. Would you like to just explain it for the people that aren't aware of this complete insanity, Cameron?
Yeah, I like the way you put it with the NCAA, though. That felt like very... like you're on some fine stuff, Rothstein stuff there, like the red pen, the NCAA. So Ashton Hawkins comes in last year. Going into the 2024 season, he's got 1 year of eligibility left. Okay. He had played junior college. He had played at Texas State. So he comes in with 1 year of eligibility left. Makes the most of it, I thought. Had a pretty good year for Baylor last year. And then early in 2025, he gets the JUCO waiver, like Diego Pavia did. Gets the waiver to come back for 1 more year. And then kind of out of nowhere, now this had been building for like a week or so, but out of nowhere, we get the news on May 13th that he no longer has eligibility for 2025. After everything, Spencer, after the combine, the pro days, after the draft, they tell him, actually, we changed our mind. You're not eligible anymore. So now this throws, what is a great Baylor offense into a bit of flux here. I mean, this was their second leading receiver in 2024. And as of right now, he doesn't have eligibility. Now, Baylor is going to fight that, and I feel pretty good about their chances.
Well, I hope so, but allow me to throw this one at you.
Please.
I felt pretty good about his chances to play another year when the NCAA told him he could play another year and went through spring football. I felt pretty good at that point that Ashton Hawkins would be a part of this Baylor offense. I felt pretty good he had another season of college football in him. So was an explanation even given by the NCAA, or did they just say, nope, screw you, man, tough luck?
No explanation that any of us have heard. Now,
that's incredible. That's just incredible.
And there is something to be said. Like, we don't know. I don't know. It's not like Ashton Hawkins got arrested or anything. I don't know his academic eligibility. Maybe that's in question. I doubt it. But that's the big thing here is like, what has changed? What has changed from January to now? From all we know, nothing has changed in Ashton Hawkins' situation. Nothing has changed in the NCAA situation. Pavia's going to play this year. Haven't heard anything about that, and he should. He's been granted that. So I don't know where this is coming from. And so Baylor is, I mean, they haven't said as much, but they said in a statement, we expect Ashton to be on our team this year, which I can only read as we're taking the NCAA to court on this. Like, this is ridiculous. And I want to get your thoughts on this, Spencer. So I've had a lot of people in the comment section saying, what if Baylor just plays him? What if they just dress him? What if they just put him out there? I have a simple answer to it, but people are so sick of the NCAA. They're like, what if Baylor just does it? I think the simple answer is they lose the game 2-0 because they forfeit it. But what if Baylor just plays him? What if they just play him? The
risk is greater than the reward.
Probably. Losing a football game?
Yes, we have seen the NCAA vacate wins that we all watched happen. They said Reggie Bush until last summer couldn't have his Heisman Trophy, and they just pretended that he wasn't the Heisman Trophy winner or something like that, even though he was in the Nissan Heisman commercials for like the last decade and a half. Like, nope, you guys didn't see that. It didn't happen. So as unfortunate as it is that this situation has arisen, I don't think you say just play it, because what was the guy at North Carolina? I'm forgetting his name, the wide receiver who, again, the NCAA just yanked around and was playing with, you can play. No, you don't get a hardship waiver, even though he had like 2 or 3 family crises or tragedies, and they were like,
happened at Florida State recently too. A kid from Miami, I can't remember his name. I was talking to someone about it the other day. His grandmother was sick, so he moved closer to home, and they said, no, you can't play.
Yeah, we came super prepared for this segment, which is great on our part. But like the whole, I just don't know what they're accomplishing. When like, this is what makes me want to pull what little hair I keep on my head out of it, Cam. Like I'm just like, who's better off? Why have you, the NCAA, made college football a better place? Unless we are missing a huge piece of information, which they just, won't divulge, right? Which is kind of a key part of making an accusation or levying a decision is, we have a reason for it. Like,
we're going to imagine if the justice system was like, we're going to send you to jail. I'm not telling you why. You don't need to know that.
Core foundation of the justice system, by the way, is when you get arrested, you are told why and what your rights are. They don't just say, yeah, we're taking it. Like, no, you have to go and say you are under arrest for this, that, and the other thing.
I need some habeas corpus from the NCAA here. This is not the Civil War. This is not Lincoln's presidency. I need me some habeas corpus here.
They have suspended it indefinitely, and they will not be telling us why or when or how or anything along those lines.
Student athlete first. You're right.
You know what? I'm going to, for no reason in particular, just insert my own story of a similar nature here.
Your name's on the show. Your name's on the show.
That's true. So and I'm the executive producer, which is cool. So the Big Ten last year denied my media credential for the Big Ten championship game. And, you know, it happens. I call to ask why, and no one answered the phone for 3 days. And I'm like, wait. So you're just making decisions that affect people's lives significantly, and you're just not telling me, like, we don't have to.
I've felt that before, by the way. That exact thing. I get exactly where you're coming from.
Makes
like, you feel great, by the way.
It's like, can you at least give an explanation of what?
Even
like
if
there was no rumor this was
even if it's a bad one. Like, can I have one?
So just something. Something that's bad is better than nothing, because at least it shows you're thinking or caring about the issue. We'll just then judge that you're not very smart about these sorts of situations. But bringing this back to Baylor football here, Cam, since this is a college football show, is the wide receiver room okay? Like, losing your second leading receiver from a year ago to most schools, I would say, that's a rather significant development.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I'll say that. And we want Ashton Hawkins to be playing for Baylor. That's the best version of Baylor. But all in all, I think they'll be able to survive. They just picked up Lewis Brown IV out of the transfer portal, out of Colorado State, who, based off his numbers, now he was playing in the Mountain West last year, but based off his numbers, he would have been the second leading receiver for Baylor in the 2024 season. I know it's not apples to apples. You also brought in this kid, Cole Wilson, out of Texas State, whose numbers were very similar to Ashton Hawkins when he was at, checks notes, Texas State. So you could be bringing in just another Ashton Hawkins here. And you've also got to remember, too, you've got one of the best returning quarterbacks in the country in Sawyer Robertson. You've got an all Big 12 number one receiver in Josh Cameron. You've got a terrific running game with maybe the two of the 3 or 4 best running backs in the conference in the same backfield. And you did also bring in Kobe Prentice from Alabama as your slot receiver out of the portal, too. So they've done some work in the portal at that position. You've still got Sawyer Robertson. You've still got Jake Spavital as the OC. Like, you're doing pretty well there. But yes, the best version of Baylor for 2025 has Ashton Hawkins on the team.
Yeah, that's I think a common trend, that if you can have your second leading receiver from a year ago, that's a good thing. By the way,
and it could have changed a lot of things in the portal. I know they got some guys for wide receiver, but you could have been going after some bigger fish if you knew that he wasn't going to be eligible.
Exactly. And I mean, and he might have decided, well, then I'm going to test the NFL draft wire. Well, you can't do that. And he can't be an undrafted free agent. Like, he just loses next year. Just no options. He just has to, I don't know, get really good at EA College Football 25, I guess.
Hope you speak UFL, buddy. How do you like Canada this time of year?
Heard it's nice. Heard Canada's nice. People up there, very nice. They're very nice up there in Canada. By the way, what a sentence to be able to say. One of the best returning quarterbacks in the country, Sawyer Robertson. That's, by the way,
saying it, man.
Factually accurate, because this is the year of quarterback turnover in the Big Ten and the SEC. And I think really in the ACC too. Like, you have some good returners in the Big 12, but man, it is just the year of, the top quarterbacks are, you got Garrett Nussmeier coming back. All right, Drew Aller is back. Carson Beck's at Miami. That'll probably work out pretty well. And then you go down the list, you're like, I don't think we get outside the top 10 for returning quarterbacks and not say Sawyer Robertson, but that's where we're at, right?
Yeah, baby. Yes. Yeah. The year of Sawyer. And if you don't know, you will soon know. I think that's what Biggie said, right? If you don't know, you will soon know.
Okay, now that we're wrapping, we are ending the segment immediately.
Potentially wrapping it up. Thanks to Spencer for having me on, and thank you to you guys for following along for another week. You guys have made this such a great community here on Locked On Baylor. So give me your thoughts on the Hawkins situation, on this Baylor basketball miraculous roster rebuild. Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a ton. It helps my bosses realize that I'm actually doing some work here, and get involved in the comment section too. Do me one favor. Have a great weekend. And let's go Baylor baseball. We will see you on Monday for another edition of your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.